All right, 3 o'clock. Okay, 3 o'clock. Welcome to the May 5th Utility Committee meeting. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Not adjourn, but we'll get it started. We'll start with the call to order and now the approval.
That thing doesn't have a microphone. I think it's your laptop.
I move to approve the agenda.
Somebody's on the phone. It's going to the phone.
May I have your attention?
That thing doesn't have a microphone. I'll let those get forward down. Yeah. Everybody should be muted. Okay, go to proceed. Please just go ahead.
All right, we'll start with the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Speaking back through a double speaker, double microphone, or something. He's on the road. Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We don't need a second on that.
Hey, Tony. Okay, you. Okay, I'm in a Zoom meeting.
Okay, we'll move forward with the approval of the last meeting notes.
I move to approve the last meeting notes as presented.
Okay, do we need a second on that? Do we need a second? Second? Any opposed? Okay, now we have the discussion about the master planning and rate study. Is that Eric?
Okay. So, Chairman Eby, we just wanted to have a discussion about master planning and rate study analysis. If you remember from last year's budget, we set aside funds to do a rate analysis for the utilities. So both the water utility put aside $100,000 and the wastewater, and that's why Isaac is here, put aside $100,000 to do a comprehensive analysis for rates. We met, a lot of the people in this room met and discussed that process and how to move forward in this fiscal year. And in that process, we kind of really determined that, in the next year, we're proposing a water master plan in addition to a wastewater facility master plan. And those two documents will give us a good capital improvement plan so that we can, in this rate analysis, actually identify what is our 10-year capital improvement needs, so that when we do this rate analysis, we make sure that we actually have the funds available for both the O&M cost, the asset replacement, and then any type of new needs that we have based on changing demographics. And so what we wanted to talk about was kind of just to see what the committee's opinion was of this, and if the committee would like us just to try to move forward with a rate study, or if we should hold back on the rate study to push forward with the master planning documents and then perform the rate study after that.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, my comment is, I think that's really a policy decision. When we look at a rate study, there's other ways of making assumptions of the capital asset improvements when, you don't have the master plans conducted. I know that the governing body, has had discussions about having to, or being in a position to alleviate some of the debt over a period of time or whatnot. So my recommendation is that we would, consider, putting all the pros and cons of conducting a rate study without a master plan together and present that to the governing body and let them make a decision on how they would want to handle it. I believe it's more of a policy decision.
All right. How many years left do we have left on the bond?
On which,
Well, to pay off the sewer plant.
the
the
sewer
debt.
plant, one is 2025 and then the other one's like 2030 something.
2030 something, so we still got a ways to go there. So at 2025, how much is the payment would go down, right? To the one.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with, Eric, as far as, you want to have those capital improvement numbers tied down as much as possible. But
Absolutely.
that, that doesn't, it's not a must. You can make assumptions. So, I think just by some of the things that I've heard from the governing body as of, as of recent, I think the rates, some of the governing body members may want to consider that sooner than later.
All righty, so then basically what's that saying, to have Eric put together the proposal with you all and then of the different options and then just present it to the governing body?
That would be, my position. Ron, how do you feel about it?
I agree with that same position and make sure
follow the same process, and it's a policy issue, and look at the different ones.
All right.
And what I would recommend is maybe we cover that under the manager's report, Eric, at the regular meeting next week, and then just get a consensus from the council whether they'd want us to proceed or to and start drafting an RFP to do a rate study, or if they want us just to hold off a year or so till the master plans are complete.
I would probably want to wait till the master plan's completed. I would think that'd probably be the consensus. I don't know, that's being my opinion right now.
Okay, so Chairman Eby and Manager Dodge will re-meet with our utility group and put together a quick pro and con list and prepare a presentation for the manager's report next week.
All righty, great.
So, it's 2028 and, that would alleviate 430 some thousand, and then the other one is 2031. The other ending date for the other one.
Okay, great. Just over the horizon.
Yeah, you can count them on your hands now.
Yes, you bet. All right, where are we? A discussion of proposed utility projects for fiscal year 2022. Just tap it.
Chairman Eby, we put together a listing of proposed utility projects for 2022, and they're going to consist of, Eric had turned in several for the Two Rivers Restoration Phase 3. We're looking at going to out for an RFP for engineering for that. Wingfield Park, they're going to consist of the rainwater catchment demonstration. That's going to be also for, we'll need to do an RFP for an engineer on that as well. He's also proposing some gravel road enhancements for all the plants and surrounding areas leading up to the plant, all the high traffic areas around the plants. Some watershed improvements. Those are going to consist of erosion control projects. We're looking at the grindstone culvert. And then the additional $450,000 for the USR, the underground storage, what are,
Underground storage and recovery.
Recovery, yeah. We're looking at also preparing to do water master plan, if that's going to be, we're going to want to get that in the budget regardless of how we proceed with the rate study, and also proposing a wastewater master plan as well, like we just discussed. He's looking at an internship program that's with the wastewater, and that's pretty neat. He's gonna see if there's I don't know if you want to go into that one a little bit more, Eric. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, Chairman Eby. So as you're aware, we're having a hard time filling our vacant operator positions. And so we need to start finding creative solutions to basically provide on-the-job training for people coming into the utility, and implementing a program where we send staff to school at the water technology program at NMSU. So this program is a 2-year associate's degree program that at the end of it, they have a level 2 water and level 2 wastewater certificate. And so the Las Cruces utility has created an internship program where they pay for 100% of the tuition fees in addition to a housing stipend, and then they give them another stipend for going to class. And then they work 20 hours a week for the utility. And so when you combine the stipends plus the part-time job, it turns out like they're getting paid a full-time job, and then they get their school paid for. And so at the completion of the program, the Las Cruces utility locks them up in a 8-year contract to work with the utility. We would probably look at doing something a little bit less. The reason why they had chose 8 years was that was the old level to get vested in the para pension plan. And so now with, I believe it was last year at the legislative session, they reduced that down to 5 years again for new employees. And so we would probably mimic that so that those people would be vested and they'd likely stick around with the village after they're vested with their pension program. So we're proposing to bring on 2 interns. And so the first year of funding plus their part-time pay would be $90,000. And we would expect a similar $90,000 in the following year. But again, we'd get 20 hours of work out of them every week. Plus they'd work full-time when they're on like their spring break and winter break. And then we'd be able to lock them into a contract. But when you look at our staff, we've got a lot of retirements coming up. And so this internship program could help us reduce that burden of all of the upcoming retirements that we're going to likely see in the next 5 years.
So is that internship program, once they complete that program, is there any kind of a stipulation that they stay on with the village X amount of years?
Yes, so that would be I'm working with Cheryl and Zach Cook to establish the time frame, but we would be looking at somewhere between a 5 to 8 year contractual obligation. And so the operator would have the chance to buy out their contract. And so we're figuring all of those contract terms for them to be able to buy out. And then there's ways that we can we can terminate an employee and obligate them to pay back the amount. I think the only way that they get out of, at least in the cruises, they get out of the contract is if they pass away. They don't pursue anything to get the funding back for that if they pass away.
All right, great. One other question on the Wingfield watershed, is that gonna be tied in or work together with Rodney with the Wingfield master plan or whoever's conducting that?
Yeah, so this project is associated with it's associated with the southern and western portions of the park. And so those are the areas that are not really a component of the proposed redesign. And so we've already incorporated some of these in the conceptual layout that's in the comprehensive plan. And so this project would just entail running the water that's coming down Center Street to around the park. So it'd run along the south side by the playground and then run around, and then we'd have infiltration areas that would soak in and then irrigate the trees and other landscaping plantings there. And then we'd also have a rainwater harvest system as a demonstration that would collect water off of the pavilion, the picnic table pavilion there. That one would likely be a subsurface cistern, and then we would have above ground tank as a demonstration off of the restroom. The main concept is to have an educational component where we can talk to people about rainwater capture and how it can improve stormwater mitigation and lighten the burden of the cost of irrigation.
Okay, thank you.
And Karen, I just wanted to correct you. We do have an engineer already on hand for that. We just need to get task orders.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, Eric, where are we at in considering reuse?
Chairman Eby, Manager Dodge. So we have the reuse analysis from Moles and Corbin. And some of the best solutions, or the most cost-effective solutions, are still upwards of $10 to $12 million to implement. And so with that reuse effort, we probably need to figure out how reuse balances out with the existing needs of the plant. And we'll get that reuse project in the CIP based off of the master plan.
So not anytime soon is what you're saying?
No, yeah, I mean, it's, it's likely that we would need to take out some type of bonding to implement appropriately sized scalping plant. And then we would basically have to, the scalping plant is basically a operating wastewater plant. And so we'd have another wastewater plant to operate and manage. Realistically, it's going to be difficult to handle the water that we need to store to reduce the total plant nutrient output of the plant. So when we have the Lynx Golf Course and the White Mountain Sports Complex, that's a good area for us to do disposal of water, but that's only a seasonal area where we can dispose of water. And so we need to figure out ways that either we can do underground storage, which is where these two projects kind of merge together. So the ideal scalping plant location would be approximately at Warrior Drive and Gavilan Canyon Road near the high school. And that is also where we're looking at doing our underground storage and recovery project. And so really there could be some long-term synergies between these projects where we might be able to situate some disposal wells in the Gavilan Canyon area to help mitigate that wintertime disposal need. And I think when we get that wintertime disposal need handled, that would make it more economically feasible to invest in that scalping plan.
Does it evaluate options of trading water with some of the farmers and, maybe even, where it'd be closer to, working with Ruidoso Downs to put some of that on their sports fields?
So it did contemplate some of the fields in Ruidoso Downs, but again, the size of the disposal area that we would need to make a meaningful impact at the wastewater plant would far exceed the needs there at Ruidoso Downs, even in conjunction with our needs at the Lynx Golf Course. It did do an analysis of downstream irrigation and the cost of running pipelines to augment irrigation. But again, you run into that issue of what do you do with the wintertime disposal? And, there is a potential for us in the next iteration of the NPDES permit or future iterations of the permit that there might be a sliding scale where we might have different discharge limits in the wintertime versus the summertime. And that's another way that we could deal with the wintertime issue. But when you when you look at the cost of doing that downstream irrigation, it was similar, if not more expensive than the scalping plant operation up there at Gavilan Canyon and Hole Road. So I can share that report with you guys again to review, and we can have another discussion about it here after you read that plan.
I know there was a discussion years ago about a scalping plant over there right near the fire substation there, just on Cream Meadows Drive, right, not too far from Village Hall. That was kind of a location that was discussed years ago. So that's a better place right there by Gavilan Canyon Hall Road?
Yes, sir.
I mean Warrior Drive and...
Yes, sir. And so part of the reason is that there is, Moles and Corbin did analyze that site because we did share with them the previous reuse studies. One of the attractive features of Gavilan Canyon is that right there is some substantial flows that are coming down there. But also, when you get down to the base of Gavilan Canyon, that's where you could have a lift station that could pump water up to this, up to the scalping plant, and you could harvest water off of that main interceptor line.
So if the scalping plant was put right there, what percentage of solids would then make it down to the wastewater treatment plant? Could you, just a rough idea? So I know that when Bobby was there, Bob, he was talking about the percentages of water and the solids in the scalping plant. One would probably add about a percentage of solids to coming into the wastewater treatment plant. He was saying that, I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 98% liquid coming in, and then, or 97%, and then, but he can handle another percentage or so of solids coming in.
Isaac is on right now. Isaac, did you hear that question?
Yes, I did. And so right now we approximately get 300 milligrams per liter of TSS, total suspended solids. So if we were to have a scalping plant, and that goes the same for BOD, biochemical oxygen demand, coming into the facility, a scalping plant, it could turn it up to 1,000, or 10,000, depending on the size and what it takes out and puts back in. And, you could also have problems with the solids actually making it to the plant without the proper amount of, effluent coming to the facility. It just depends on what we were going to do with that scalping plant, but you can definitely see it could be bad in both ways, whether it's sending way more solids over here or way more liquid over here. That's more concentrated.
So I'm sure anything in the future would be discussed between Isaac and Eric, and all of that would be worked out.
Yes, sir. And we'll do whatever we got to do to make it work, sir.
Great, great. All right, anything more on that? Proposed utility project?
We have a couple of smaller projects that's in reference to the Centricity 811 integration. Also, a risk and resilience compliance, addressing some compliance issues with fencing and gating around Plant 3 and Plant 4. We're looking at doing that. North Fork Control Building, we don't have an estimate on that yet, full estimate, but we're looking at that. And then some spillway repairs at the Grindstone Dam. That was what Eric had turned in. And Randy, he's going to focus on maintenance on his area. He's planning on rolling over the tank painting project that was in the budget for this fiscal year. He's planning on rolling that over and addressing that in fiscal year '22. And also Plant 4 paving.
Plant 4 what?
Plant 4 paving, he wants to pave.
Okay, paving.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Those are the ones that we got turned into capital projects. So.
All righty, any comments on these? Okay, then we'll move on to report, sewer audit.
So I actually just had to step aside Chairman Eby, but she'll be back right away. If we could move to the water audit, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I want you to go to the water audit.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just move right on to the water audit then.
I thought he said no progress made by Ashley.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, since Ashley is here, we've got our sewer audit report.
Okay, so for the sewer audit, we did have a little bit of progress. So number of properties that we have audited so far is 4,943. Number of properties connected during the audit process were 160, and we had 73 properties connect ahead of being audited. So this gave us a total of 233 properties being connected so far. We have 7 properties pending right now, and I'm working with Marty to just give him the final list, so we'll be sending out letters here soon, once he finalizes it.
Okay, great. Moving right along with the connections. Water audit?
All right. So
Just
Chairman,
add one question for Ashley.
Okay, great.
Is that 233, that's the total since you started the program?
Yes,
What's the number of properties this year?
I can get you that number once I get back to the office.
Maybe you can break them into fiscal years and start reporting on
Yeah,
that?
I can do, you want fiscal or calendar years?
Right, fiscal year.
Fiscal? Yeah, I can start
And
doing
unless
that.
calendar makes some sense for some other purpose.
Okay.
our main thing is just the MPDES permit, I think, starts in September, so it really doesn't have any bearing.
I just want to know what type of progress we're making year after year.
Okay, yeah, I can break down, I have what dates all these properties connected on. It'll probably take me roughly a day to probably go through all of them, but I can probably break that down and get that report over to you.
Okay. Thank you.
So Chairman Eby, for the water audit, we have started to see some drops in non-revenue water, so we're starting to see some of our indicators reflect that. This is the infrastructure leakage index, and after going up, we've had several months in a row of it starting to curve back down. And then the value of non-revenue water continues to drop as our latest leases have less influence over it as our leases start dropping off. So again, this is a trailing 12-month average. Our authorized consumption, billed authorized consumption has stayed at a similar level, although it is in a slight trend upward. And our total water supply has started to make that trend downwards after starting to increase. And so then the unadjusted values and then the trailing 12-month values. So top part, the blues, that's the total water supply to the system. So again, we can see we've started that to correct those issues that were starting to really peak in the summer of this last year. And hopefully with the repairs that have been happening in the system, we'll still see this trend going downwards. The spring tends to be the point when we have our least amount of water produced because of tourism, and then even though we have a watering ban, there's less watering. It still happens out there. Our water sales, even though they're down a little bit, they're still higher and have been higher than they've been in previous years. So it does show that there's likely some more people in town than we're used to still, despite COVID. And so with that, our non-revenue water, with our slightly above sales and then our decreased total production, our non-revenue water is starting to go back down again after it's been slowly increasing over the past year. So this is good news, but we're still going to take some actions to help identify potential leaks in the system. So it was always my intent to, I wanted to contract with somebody and do a leak detection throughout the whole town. And so Judy and I have earmarked quite a bit of funding for an obligation to purchase water rights that the state isn't going to impose on us. And so we don't have the final permit in hand to say, yes, we don't need to buy these water rights. But my intent is for us to start using those funds to pay for a leak detection service. So I'm expecting, based on the previous times that we've subcontracted, it would be about $150,000 to possibly do the entire town. And then pending the amount of repairs that might be needed, it might be an overwhelming amount for our distribution crew, because a lot of these are just going to be tiny, very tiny leaks. We might be able to just contract that work out with the $1 million that we've got that we could free up from the water rights purchase earmark. So I've started working with John Commander to put together a scope of work, and we're going to get procurement out for that and hopefully get somebody out here this summer that can help us do leak detection for the whole town. And so hopefully that will help us continue this trend moving forward. Be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I get, maybe we could get a report sometime on the water conservation that, ever since we passed the water conservation, as far as the council, I don't know, how many years ago now, 3 or 4, has it had any impact on the water?
Like the demand side use? Or do you mean demand side use or the total water?
As far as water usage per meter or household?
So and we've talked with the state, because of our high amount of non-revenue water, our water conservation program is mainly geared internally. And so it's a matter of us cleaning up our system to reduce that non-revenue water, because at this point that we're at, we hands down encourage water conservation in our ordinances. You know, when somebody puts in, new bathroom fixtures, they're supposed to be low flow. And we're trying to encourage people to look at low impact landscaping. But we don't have any type of incentive-based program because our concern is to spend money toward system repairs and improvements. So that's where the low-hanging fruit still is. And so once we can get that non-revenue water down to what is reasonable for our system, then we can start looking at implementing these consumer side programs where we could possibly provide rebates for, say, installing a rainwater catchment system or changing out a higher flush toilet for a low flow toilet, or changing out shower heads. So I think that we're still several years away from implementing a demand side program, but it is something that's outlined in our conservation plan, and we're just waiting for that appropriate time to implement it.
So just got to keep Adam replacing pipe, right?
Yes, so we've got, Adam's got several projects lined out. The water line replacements kind of stalled out a little bit because of the emphasis for Plant 3, but Adam is implementing these projects. So we'll start putting more pipes in the ground here with the start of Town and Country and moving forward with Pine Cliff and Paradise Canyon.
That last report that you gave that, as far as the water line replacement that we saved so many millions of gallons, has that been revised? The number of gallons that have been saved?
So because of our increase in non-revenue water, it's dropped a bit, but kind of since when we started doing these in 2015, we've dropped our non-revenue water by, I think it's approximately 70 million gallons. Before it was as high as 110 million gallons.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments on water audit? Okay, then we'll move on to asset management.
Okay, so for asset management, Ashley and I met with Southwestern Environmental Finance Center and got them moving on their components to complete the asset valuation. So we just sent an email to Heather today to see where she's at, and I did see she responded to us. And then Luke is working on, we're setting up the utility network. Is it an extension, Ashley?
Yeah, so it's part of ArcGIS that we already have the Esri license for. We just need to get it installed. And so we're working with Systems MD right now to get the requirements set up. So ArcGIS requires these certain requirements before we can actually launch this extension. And so Systems MD has been keeping in contact. They're trying to find the best solution before we can move forward on it. But it's going to be a really cool program to where all of our lines will be connected. We can turn off a valve and see what properties are going to be affected by like a water leakage, or if a PRV blew out, what properties would be impacted by it.
So it would help us, Chairman Eby, and when we have our operators doing work, they can turn off and on valves through this program, and then it would show the areas of impact. So it's the first step in us being able to publish an online map, outage map, where we could have show people where is the water outage and if you're affected by it, and then it could help us kind of convey that message to the public, or have another mechanism for the public to check on that.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on, risk and resiliency assessment.
Okay, so for the risk and resiliency assessment, we're currently putting assets into the VSAT tool. And so we've kind of divided them out between 3 different programs per se. We have water production, water distribution, and water resources, which kind of covers Eric and I's portion plus some minor areas. And so we have we put all the water resources in. We haven't put in any cost yet. So we're working with Heather on getting costs for all of our assets. Water production, all of their assets are put in. We're now waiting for costs as well. We do have some costs, so some of their costs have actually already been put in. So we're starting to get a cost estimate for these different assets. And then we are working with Adam right now. So we just did a priority impact assessment. Next, we're going to work on these different charts to kind of narrow down our critical assets within water distribution. And then those will be put into the VSAT tool. So I think we're still on track. We figured out how to divide the assets out into the VSAT tool to make it run a lot more efficiently. So I think we'll hopefully be on track once we get these numbers from Heather.
Okay, thank you. Okay, planning Alto Reservoir improvements.
Chairman Eby, so the Alto Reservoir improvements, I've submitted my comments for the pressure testing for the water line and just waiting for the engineer to send it back to me, and then I'll advertise it for bid to get a contractor to help us do that pressure test.
Okay, so that's almost ready to go.
Well, so just the pressure test. So the pressure test is going to help us finish up the planning component, and then from there, once we know what the condition is of the lines and if they're can hold water, then we'll move in to have a new task order to do the system designs, and then we'll have that project connect the Eagle Creek Sports Complex to the Alto Reservoir. So we had to do this assessment beforehand because otherwise, we don't want to invest this money in the crossings and then realize that half of the line or through Alto has to be replaced, and then it'd still be $1 million project. So.
All right, underground storage and recovery.
So, Chairman Eby, Roger, Peary, and I have had our second meeting with the Office of the State Engineer. We submitted them our criteria report that we did to determine that the high school well is the best location for us to propose the study location at. And so they had a bunch of questions for us, and so we met with them for about an hour and clarified a lot of their concerns, but it also set us up in a better spot for the pre-application meeting. That's a statutory requirement. And so right now, Roger is making the changes to our water model to get that prepared to share with the hydrologist with the Office of the State Engineer, and is making some final adjustments to the assessment report. And then we'll start the filling out the application, and then that will trigger the pre-application meeting with the state.
What kind of time frame you think on that?
So the USR projects are just inherently slow because it's, one, a new process for the state, and two, has two state agencies with jurisdiction over it. And so we have to both get discharge permits for discharging to groundwater, and then we also have to have the Office of the State Engineer permits. So we're probably looking at having the pre-application meeting, I would imagine, in late May, early June. And then that will help set up the parameters for the study. And so we'd probably be looking at possibly putting in the monitoring wells in like November to like the spring of next year.
So a year or so.
Yes. And then that would be the study, and then we would inject water and study the effects of it to determine the quantities that we could store there. And then after that, then we would get the permit and then do the final capital improvements to get everything solidified and get all of the injection equipment incorporated into our system appropriately. So we're still, we still probably have a 2-year minimum process.
Okay, so it's at least a year before the preliminary step.
Before we start putting in the monitor wells, yes, for the study.
Okay, well, thank you. Wingfield Park, Midtown Drainage.
So for Wingfield Park,
Bless you, bless you.
right now I'm just waiting to see how the prices come back for the Horton Complex for the stormwater management. And if we have adequate funds left in the environmental GRT, then we would move forward with to finalize the engineering with Riverbend Engineering. I've already had, Chris has provided a proposal for finishing the engineering and helping us do the bid and construction services for that. So once we get the Horton Complex in, hopefully we can start the task order for this.
Alrighty. Engineering, RJU shop. Is that Adam?
That'd be me. I talked to Wilson last Friday, and they had a couple more questions on just the interior design and utilities. They said they're still on track for April, going out to bid in April. So hopefully everything still looks good in there. They're moving forward.
Adam, we're in April.
April, I'm sorry.
We're in April.
Sorry, I got my months messed up.
Any comments? Anything else there, Adam?
That's it, unless you guys have any questions.
All right, well, thank you. Grindstone Dam.
Okay, the 90% design is completed from Ye and Associates. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago and went over all the information, and Gresh is making the corrections and should have the 100% design submitted sometime this week. And then once that is completed, I'll send the 100% design to James Head with OSC Dam Safety Bureau for his review and comments. And Sauter Miller and Associates completed the dam survey, and they're working on the report. Once they have that completed and submitted to us, I will also forward that to James Head. I'll stand for any comments or questions.
Moving right along. I still gotta get a tour of the gallery sometime.
Not a problem.
Okay.
It's kind of an interesting place.
Yeah, is it still leaking and dripping on you? Looks like you're in an old horror movie.
Yes, it is. And we're working on correcting that where we can eliminate the water inside. I mean, we'll still have some seepage, but we'll have drainage.
Okay, great. I'll get that with you along with the tour of the other plant. Hazard mitigation and stabilization for sewer line.
Yes, we're still working on the surveys right now. I mean, the surveys, I'm sorry, the easement documents, putting those together. We started receiving red line documents from the engineer. high water mark and is reviewing those. And we're looking at making some time for next week to start reviewing to see if there's any potential changes for property owners so we can get with Mr. Koppler. But we're making headway now. So
Okay.
we're still working on easements on that.
How's the old easements coming?
They're coming along. Like I said, they're redoing, they had to do some adjustments to make accommodations for temporary construction easements and the access easements. There was some conflicting areas where they had some problems getting access the way the engineer thought it would work on as far as the construction drawings versus going out in the field and actually walking it. So they're making those adjustments now. So we should start seeing some movement as far as getting those back on track and moving forward on all those.
Okay, great, thank you. Any comments? Stormwater management at Horton Complex. Eric, he's a star.
So Chairman Eby, I guess I'm not really aware of what the ETA is for the bids for White Sands. Do you know, Ron?
Counselor Eby, we actually, Tim and I received the plan set today, the 50% plan set, and it does have the drainage on it also. So we're in the process of reviewing those plans, and we have the police chief and the lieutenant reviewing the sections of the dispatch center, and then we're going to be reviewing the court section also. So, but we do have a plan set that we want to get reviewed and finalized and sent back so they can get moving on getting it out to bid. So
Okay, so they haven't,
the drainage is on there too, Eric. So we'll have to.
so they haven't done any of the bid letting.
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you. Eagle Creek, Gavin Canyon Wellfield.
So Chairman Eby, John Commander has advertised the project for Brown and Falwell. We're advertising it for an extended period, a 45-day window, just because we are going to have to wait anyways for on-the-ground construction until we finalize the funding for the Water Trust Board. We have gotten through almost all the aspects of the readiness component, and then we did get a waiver from the Finance Authority for the TTHM violation, which Randy will come into compliance here. I believe you took your samples today or tomorrow.
Actually got shifted towards Wednesday, so we will take them on Wednesday.
So on Wednesday, yeah, Randy will take the samples for TTHMs, and then we just need to wait to get the results back from the testing company, which might take several weeks, I believe. But we should be on track to getting that violation cleared up by probably the end of the month.
Yeah, the reason for the delay, because we were on board to get them sampled today, but the manager of the restaurant, Cattle Barons, she won't be available until Wednesday morning. And they actually need access to the building to get inside to take the samples, so that's why it wasn't taken today. But yeah, we'll get the results and I'll keep on top of it so we can get them back as quick as possible.
Okay, well, thank you. Town and Country Water and Sewer Rehabilitation and Replacement. Did I hear, Adam, that you're looking to buy the first lot up there?
Yeah, right. So we got the bids back in March 23rd. We sent the recommendation to the engineering firm, waiting for it back. It is General Hydronics was the apparent low bid on that. So they are supposed to have that back to us, if they have not got it back to us by well, I guess they've already supposed to have it back to us, and they went to Samantha. So hopefully we can get this job off the ground.
Now, is there going to be a lot of road replacement up in that area too, also?
Yes, sir. It's going to be a complete road, water, and sewer replacement.
Okay. So, now, I didn't quite understand, but you're just waiting on general hydronics?
We're waiting on well, I believe it's going to the council to approve this coming council meeting.
No, Counselor Eby, the project's been awarded and
That's right.
the agreement between the village and the contractor is been emailed to, sent off to DFA for their approval of the project, so.
Yes, we just,
Yes, that was approved at the April 1st meeting.
Sorry about that. That's what I was.
Adam's in the airport right now in California, so.
But I did hear that you are looking to buy that first lot.
They'll give it to me. I can afford it.
Adam, how come your head's all tan?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard anyway, from reliable sources.
Reliable sources, huh?
All right, lift stations and force mains. Is that Adam?
Yes, this also is out with the procurement. We're expecting to have the recommendation back from the engineer this week, and that'll be going to the JUB meeting on the 21st.
Okay.
We received one bid for that, and we're looking for the certification and recommendation from the engineer, and then we'll proceed, take that to the JUB.
All right. Okay, well, thank you. Construction, Alto Crest Treatment Plant, 3.
Okay. The items completed since the last pay app is the rebuild of Train 2. And they installed the media. They started up the blower and checked the paddle flocculators. They did training. They did a successful back T that came back negative. And so they started it up today, but then they had some issues with the level sensor. So they were, I guess it got disconnected, but they were rewiring and getting that back online. And so we'll be testing filter 2 to see how everything goes. We moved the generator up ahead since it was already completed. They finished the items that Katie had requested. And so now the load test, the startup, and all the training was done last week. And we wanted to move it up ahead so we're in the windy season and it'd be great to have that generator as a backup. So we've got that all set up and that's going to be quite helpful. They did the drainage swell and riprap and the lighting inside the pump gallery. The work in progress is the HVAC installation, and they're working on the bathroom renovations. Chemical area, they're working on that. And other than that, it's moving along pretty good. If anybody has any questions or comments on it.
Question, comment?
If anybody would like a tour, I'm open to
Okay,
give one.
I'll give you a call. I haven't been up there in a while, probably a year.
It'd be good for everybody to see it, or because it's pretty impressive how it's coming along.
Maybe we can get a couple people to go at the same time, that way
Sure.
it'll be more productive for your time there. Restoration of existing sewer lines and manholes. Adam?
Yes, sir. The last update we got from SAK, they were at 36,000 linear feet lined. And they had almost 3/4 of the manhole rehab done. So they're moving along. One of the crews did move out. So they are running one crew lining sewer lines, and then they have the crews actually doing the manholes, but they are moving forward on this.
All right.
I'm gonna take Amy for a walk. Do you wanna go? You want me to wait for you or just go?
I don't know. I've walked out.
Closeout process, Country Club tank?
Well, I'm pleased to say that everything is completed. We have the closeout documents all up to date and ready to go, and we will present it on this council meeting. And we do have a good plan of keeping an eye on the tank on a weekly basis at the minimum. And before the project or the warranty period expires, we are going to do a real thorough inspection on it to make sure everything's still going well. But
Right?
I'll be glad to get that one closed out.
I know, I've heard the word Country Club tank for probably 6 or 7 years.
Well, it was an interesting project,
Yes.
but I think we got a good one at the end. So.
Well, Alto 2?
Chairman Eby, the Alto 2 well is just on here because it's part of the Phase 1 of Eagle Creek. And so we're doing the report together with the apple orchard. So nothing is advanced on that well, just waiting for the completion for apple orchard, which is the next project on here. The apple orchard at Middle Gavilan, we're just waiting to do the final change order and project closeout. And so we're just awaiting the final deliverables, the O&M manuals, the as-built survey, and other associated data. Lately, we've been having a difficult time getting these from our contractors. And so in this, the Brown and Faltwell project, we're going to issue a addendum with the addendum for the pre-bid meeting that basically obligates a list of deliverables to be provided at substantial completion, because once the contractors are getting a bulk of the work done, they drag to finish the rest because they've got 95% of their money already, and so they're not in a big rush to get us those deliverables, and we're not really in a good spot to charge them liquidated damages. I mean, we can threaten it, but when it comes down to fighting in a courtroom, we have to actually show damages, and it's hard to show that with not getting an O&M manual or as-built drawing. So we're going to tie that to the substantial completion document and not issue it. And so hopefully we'll get these documents before the project's done, especially like the O&M manuals. They know the equipment that they're installing once they order it, so they can put that packet together for us right away. There's no reason that they're taking as long as they are.
Oh, Eric, I wanted to let you know that I did get the O&M manuals for A2, and I have them in the truck, so after this meeting, I will take them up to Jan, so.
Okay, and I have them too, and we've got them in digital copies. It's just, it took way too long to get
Okay.
those, and we're still waiting for the apple orchard at Middle Gavilan. We should already have those, but we still need them.
Yeah, Eric, that's a great point to make, and we will adjust our checklist per se so that we can start asking all that at substantial completion. That's a great point, Nate.
You say they're 95% paid. How much as far as percentage completed?
So I mean, so typically, we can't withhold payments for them, but the closeout documents are typically deliverable with the demobilization fee. And so basically, we're sitting on the demobilization fee in the bid tab, waiting for these documents. And so, it might be, it's still some money. It might be $10,000 to $35,000 or so, but they've already gotten the biggest chunk of their money, and so they're not chasing to get that last little bit. And so I think just, being proactive and putting down the substantial completion, and we're gonna be really a lot more forceful in the scheduling component of it to make sure that our contractors are getting those delivered to us.
Well, it sounds like Aaron's got a plan to work with you.
Hopefully we'll not have to talk about the same projects over and over, because if you notice, they sometimes stall out at the tail end.
Yes. Country Club, yeah. All right, completed projects. Nothing? Okay, any unsaid business? Hearing none, I guess this meeting is adjourned. Next meeting date, May 3rd, 2021, 3 PM.